What's going on out there, YouTube family? We are live. This is our first live movie review. Is that true?
Is it? Yes, because we've done technically review
We've done
discussions,
and spoiler review, but not
this
the
is the first
initial
non-spoiler
spoiler.
review live that we've done.
Yeah. And let's just go ahead and get into it. We're talking about A Quiet Place Part 2. This is long overdue. This was supposed to originally come out March 20th of 2020. Of course, the pandemic happened, so that kept us from doing anything. We never saw it until tonight. And we actually got to see it in theaters, in Dolby Digital, and the atmospherics and the visual aesthetics. We haven't been in the theaters probably since the movie The Gentleman, right, Lucas?
Yes,
Is that fair to say?
I want to say The Gentleman was the last movie we saw together in theaters. Now we did see Tenet, but we saw that at a drive-in.
Drive-in,
yeah. But The Gentleman was the last one we saw together in theaters. Was The Gentleman?
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and just dive deep, you guys. So prepare yourselves. This is a non-spoiler review, so don't worry about any kind of spoilers. So John Krasinski is back at the director's chair. He's at the writing chair, and everybody that was originally in the very first one is also in this one in different ways and different scopes. But it literally starts from the moment that the last one ended. So let's go ahead and kind of break it down, Lucas. As far as just the visuals and the camera imagery, I was really surprised on just how it started out, because it starts out in a place that you don't expect, in a world that you don't really expect. And just the camera work to me just felt so fluid, and it seemed like he wasn't constrained like he was in the first one. The first one, you got normally just him going to the house or going to a location or running. In this, just opening up, you feel like the world is being opened up and the camera is just moving with us as the audience. But I was curious your perspective on the visual aesthetics and just his choice for imagery in this one in general.
Now, again, it starts off with some quote unquote what people would call trick shots.
Yeah.
And the camera movement is amazing there. You normally don't see that too often in horror movies, because this is a horror. So you don't see this and these shots taking horror movies. These are normally dramatic shots where you want to follow the main character and you follow dramatic movements. And for him to decide to do that in some horror moments early on in this film was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because again, it's an element that you're not accustomed to seeing from a horror movie. And the way he pulls it off is amazing. Now, you clearly see the budget is increased in this movie.
Oh, yes.
From the beginning, you can see the budget is increased in this movie, and it's in an amazing shot at the beginning part of this movie as we are kind of introduced to the action that is going to take place and how we are basing it off of the first film into the second film. And it's a shot that is great. And I turned to Sam during the movie and said, that's an amazing shot, because it just caught me off guard, because that's not a shot you would expect to see in a horror movie.
Exactly.
That is a shot I expect to see in a sci-fi blockbuster or a Gerard Butler Greenland type of film type of shot. And the way he pulls it off here is amazing. I loved his camera work here. I love the way we trace and we followed everyone. Not just the main characters, but everyone, just to show the fear in people. So when you make it personal, when it seems like it's purposely done to like attach a camera to every person so you can get their view and their scope of the horror that they're going through, I think it's amazing. And again, the first 10 minutes of this movie is something to marvel at. Even in its quiet moments. And there are quiet moments, quiet place. There are quiet moments at the beginning of this film where nothing is happening and it's mainly dialogue, but the shot selection is so amazing. It keeps you engrossed in it. And when the action ramps up, the shot selection stays the same. And that's amazing to pull off.
That's a fact. And then I had to talk about the sound design and the suspense, and also keeping the traits that made the first one so beautiful is the sound, like the lack of it, or the spontaneousness of how it kind of comes off on different people. because much like the first one, you know, you have a character, you know, the daughter who's deaf and she can't hear whatsoever. And so the most scariest moments about the first one was whenever she was on screen. But now they taken that a step further. You might have somebody that has headphones on. You might have somebody where they all of a sudden are kind of like take it out of the scope for a second and you go into another person. They're like hearing something completely different. And I thought that the sound design and specifically, man, the suspense was just ramped up. I knew from the very beginning there was a scene. I was with Lucas and I was like, yo, that scared me, bro. Like straight up. Like, and I think it all caters to how he positions shots, but also pulls off the execution of the sound of whenever something is coming or when it's coming at you. He understands horror very well, but he also understands how we react as human beings, which is it's hard. It's hard to do as a director. But I was curious your perspective, though, Lucas.
If ever a film truly defines to its audience what sound mixing is, because I know a lot of you still to this day don't know what sound mixing is. When you see a film like this, you fully understand what sound mixing is. It's mixing different elements of the same scene with sound. And the way they do it here is, again, so great. The first one was amazing in doing that because it was limited sound. Wasn't a lot going on in it, but at times it would like catch crickets or catch anything that will make the slightest bit of sound and it will get your attention. Here, it's mixing all different elements of sound. You get the big boom moments with the little moments, the extremely quiet moments with the tense quiet moments to get you engrossed into the film. And to have one scene, because it's one scene in this movie that mixes all of those sounds at the same time.
Yeah.
And at no point do you feel lost because it feels so natural in everything that's happening that you're expecting this. You're expecting this type of sound to come. You're expecting the fear to come from the sound. And again, as Sam said, when you're trying to build suspense in horror movies, normally the cheap way to do it is a jump scare.
Yeah.
While this movie has jump scares, the way they set up their jump scares are some of the best you'll ever get because they come out of nowhere, but it's supposed to come out of nowhere because it represents the monsters that come out of nowhere.
Exactly.
It's sound editing and sound mixing at its best is in this movie.
Yeah, you'll never anticipate something that's coming at you. Even when you think like, oh snap, I need to be watching out and kind of guarding myself, you're going to get ambushed. And I'll say this, that the first one, we saw the monsters here and there. Like, it was scary because when they did come, like, they were ferocious. Like, you were like, oh my gosh, we don't want to see them. This movie said, oh, we're going to show you what these monsters are really about, what their capability is, and what has happened to the world. And speaking on world building and characters, they actually add in a couple new characters in this. Cillian Murphy plays a role in this one. I think he does a good addition to this. I kind of felt like, I was like, is this going to work? They're going to shoehorn him in. You know, we already know that the dad's passed, but they make a way of having a character that not only did I actually care about, but there was some mystery behind him. I didn't understand necessarily his intentions, nor did I feel like, I don't want to trust him just yet, but I'm curious where this is going. And throughout, he's able to carry it. He literally, I mean, just like he's carrying this character right here, he's literally able to carry on the legacy that John Krasinski's character did, but just in a different rotation and in a different directory and a trajectory that I felt like serviced the film itself as a whole, personally. But there was other characters as well. But I was curious, what do you think about the characters and then I guess how they did? I mean, as actors as well.
I think the key part for this movie was coming into it, you assume that Emily Blunt is going to take the forefront of the film.
Very true.
As she was the main co-star of the original, you kind of assume that, okay, she's clearly going to take over. She's the mom. She's going to be the lead character of this film. What this film does an amazing job with also introducing Cillian Murphy, but Millicent Simmonds, the young girl in this film, instead of pushing the mom to the forefront, they pushed her to the forefront.
They did.
And that was a brilliant move because some of the best scenes of the first Quiet Place was between her and John.
Yep.
And their interactions with each other. So now we get to see a different interaction with her and Chilean in this film. Mm-hmm. And you clearly see it's not a love thing between both of them two when it starts off as. This is a thing of her kind of, even their introduction to one another, she doesn't seem too fond of him.
Oh, no, not at all.
So I think that is kind of implied from the beginning. She's not very fond of him, but just their relationship and how it builds through the film and how it naturally builds through this film, along with everyone else. Noah's performance as a son here, great. He has a scene that is gut wrenching because something happens. When it happens, you're like, there's no way he's going to survive. There's absolutely no way he's going to survive. But it is shot so beautifully, and his reaction is so natural. It works so well. And then you have Miss Blunt. What can you say?
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah, she's gonna nail almost anything that she does, and she nails it here. But she nails it again in a supporting role, and I think that is the most important element of this film. Is that now she is the big name in his film, and yet and still. It's a supporting character.
Yeah.
And it works so well for this movie. Granted, I am still questioning why they had a baby during all this stuff.
Bruh, look.
But from a character perspective, all of them work. And that is a very rare thing to say in horror movies. Normally you have that one annoying character. Now, while the children do things that are highly annoying in this film at times.
Oh my gosh.
The excuse, and I told Sam this while we were watching it, it makes perfectly good sense for the kids to do it because they're children. If they didn't do it, I would find it odd that they would have the maturity level in this situation to understand everything they're supposed to do.
Realistically.
Yeah. And in hearts of hearts, they're still children here. And it works so well because these young actors kill it in this film.
Yeah, I'll say this about even when there are moments where it's kind of like, man, why did this character do that? Why did she put herself in this situation? At the end of the day, as stupid as some of their decisions were, the story allowed it to make sense. And I don't want to say too much without spoiling anything, but for every action that somebody makes, it does lead somewhere. And it may be the most unconventional way, but it leads somewhere very interesting to the point that by the end of the film, fundamentally, every character is elevated. Every character is allowed at a moment to be able to show what they're capable of for good or bad, or death or life. Like, you really get to see them put it all out there on the line. And it's crazy because the movie started off very different. Because the first movie is very different than this movie. I don't know how I can kind of compare the two, but I think me and Lucas even talked about it, is that the building out of the world in this and expanding it in the way that they did, people are going to be very excited about this film. And I'm very curious to see what you guys say about it, because I mean, I don't know, because do you think that it's going to be a different experience for those that see this on Paramount Plus 45 days after the fact? Or for those that are seeing in the theaters, do you think the experience is going to be actually different? Because I'm torn. I really am. I feel like I got spoiled looking at this in Dolby, and this is my first time back in the theaters. So I don't know.
You can't appreciate the sound that this movie pulls off in your home theater if your home theater is under $10,000. I hate to say it. Like, granted, you'll still enjoy the movie no matter where you watch it. But man, it is something about being back in the theater and having those speakers take over your body at certain moments in this film that, like, I personally don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it on television. Because I'm not going to get the same feel I got from seeing this in theaters. Amazingly, it's the same thing about the first Quiet Place. We saw it in a screening. I have not seen that movie since, because I remember the experience I had in theaters watching that film, and this is going to be the exact same thing. While granted, I still think you're going to enjoy it. You're still going to get a lot out of this film. And again, as Sam pointed out, the key part of you getting out of is realizing it's not the same type of movie.
Yeah.
If you a loose comparison of Quiet Place 1 to Quiet Place 2 could be Terminator 1 to T2. How it is a continuation of the story, but boy, are they completely different type of films. Yeah. But equally great. That's what this is. It is a completely different type of film. Even from the tagline of it, when it's silence isn't enough. I think that's a beautiful tagline for this film, considering the first film was mainly about silence, quiet moments out of fear of what could happen. And for the sequel, let's just say you don't get too many quiet moments in this one.
Yeah, and this is a quick little segue. We do have other actors in this one. Djimon Hounsou is actually in this one, and when he shows up onto the scene, it is kind of a quiet moment. Like it is a really peaceful, quiet moment. And I'm not going to tell you when or what time this place, but it also is very beautiful in what's happening. And that's hard to kind of pull off, like in the middle of so much turmoil that's happening, and in the middle of so much like suspense and worry and concern. They're able to use an actor like him for his role and how they kind of position the world around him, which is very interesting. So all shouts out to John, man. John, from a directing standpoint, from a written standpoint, he crushed it yet again. I mean, he struck gold twice. For me, this is one of my favorite movies this year.
And this is for someone who did not want to do this movie. He is adamant that he did not want to do a sequel to A Quiet Place. And for someone who didn't want to do a sequel to still write this type of film and direct it at this quality is amazing. And again, this film sets up so much of the world of The Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Now it has me wanting a prequel series. I want a television series. I can do a sequel. Like I can do all of those things because this film sets up questions and characters in this world that makes you wonder, hey, what's happening with these group of people? What's happening with these group of people? It's something that someone else recently attempted to pull off and didn't.
Yeah.
And this one pulls it off in spades of taking a little film and expanding it to what could be a universe if done properly.
I completely agree. We can't really say any more than this because trust me, you guys, there's a lot to spoil. There's so much to spoil.
The key part about this, the key thing to say, this movie is a very tough, violent, lean hour and 30 minutes.
Yep.
I want y'all to understand how hard it is to make any movie good in an hour and 30 minutes. But excluding credits, this movie is over in an hour and 30 minutes. Matter of fact, it may be over in an hour and 27 minutes. It is not a long film, but boy, again, just like films that are always nonstop, it's so relentless that you're holding your breath for an hour and 30 minutes. You're like, it's trapped your emotion in for an hour and 30 minutes. So it feels like it's longer, but it's not. So it's one of those things that hits you. It hits you hard and quick. There's no wasted shots. There's no wasted moments. There's no wasted dialogue. None of that exists in this film. And again, that goes to the director. That goes to the writer in understanding we need to streamline everything here.
Yep.
We introduced you to what was going on in the first film. Now we'll use the second film to expand it, but still keep it close enough where we can keep it tight.
Yep.
And that's what happens here.
Yep. And I see some of you guys in the chat. We're not used to doing it live, so I apologize. We haven't been in the chat. But somebody did ask, about seeing it in the theater and saying you weren't feeling comfortable going to the theaters. Please make sure you know I don't even still completely feel comfortable going to the theaters. Don't feel as though we're pressuring you that you have to go and see the theaters. Take it at your own value that this is a movie, regardless of whenever time you watch it. If you're watching at home, if you watch it later on in theaters, just watch it. whatever your capacity it is, don't put pressure on yourself. Make sure you keep and preserve your health, your loved ones, regardless of what's going on with this pandemic. We're just saying that the film is good, and the atmosphere of what we felt watching in theaters was amazing.
Yeah.
But don't feel pressured, please.
I mean, or you can go like Sam did. Sam had on a mask, he had on the gloves, he had on a face shield, he had on long sleeve clothing. Like literally, he looked like he was in the Quiet Place. He had on everything humanly possible. So again, if you don't feel comfortable going to theaters, don't. It's very simple here.
Yeah.
Your comfortability should not be. You shouldn't compromise it for an experience, no matter how good the experience is.
Yeah.
And that's the difference here. This film is. It's rare that you get it, but some films are made for theaters.
Yeah.
This is a film that's made for theaters. So you're not going to get the same thing you get at home, but guess what? You'll still see the film.
Yep.
That's the most important thing. If you're someone who loves films, if someone who loves the horror genre, you'll still get it at home. Yep. So if you're not comfortable enough to go to theaters, screw it. Don't go.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure the studio won't be happy that we said that, but that's fine. That's fine.
But you got Paramount Plus, 45
but
days.
Again,
you're good.
I think they already got it set as July 12th.
Yep.
They literally already set the date that it will drop on Paramount Plus is July 12th. So if you want to hold out to July 12th if you have Paramount Plus. If you don't, you may have to hold out a little bit longer for VOD. But if that's the case, fine. It's perfectly fine to hold out. But if you are comfortable, and we no longer have to say, and if theaters are open everywhere. Yeah. If you are comfortable enough to go to a theater, track down your nearest theater. And if you can get an IMAX Dolby screen with this on it, my goodness. Yeah. It will be an experience that will blow you away.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just kind of close it out. Final numbers. What do you rate this one? I'm gonna go last.
So Quiet Place 2 out of a possible 10. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. And the reason I kind of want to give it a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I had to think. I'm rating it behind a horror movie. And I'm trying to remember in my head what I gave that horror movie, but I think I gave that movie a 10 out of 10.
You did.
And Quiet Place is really good. It's not that type of good. It's not that type of game changer to me, but it's not supposed to be. Because the first one was that type of game changer. This one is just a continuation, and it's a 9 out of 10. It's definitely something for horror movie fans to go see. But even if you are not the biggest horror movie fan, if you're a fan of cinema, I think you'll really enjoy it. Again, John pulls off some amazing shots. There are some really good performances here. Yeah. And it's other things that entice you. And dag nabbit, you'll never hear me say it again. Well, except for the other horror movie that I'm reading above this one, because I said the exact same thing. I need people to understand in film how important sound is. If your sound is not mixed properly, it can throw off your entire film. When it is mixed properly and done exquisitely, you get a film like this. Like from the beginning of the movie, I felt my chair in a theater rattle at certain points in this movie. Yeah. It is sickening what they pull off with sound in this movie.
Yeah, if you got like a 7.1 surround sound system and all the things.
Matter of fact, if you're at home, I'm just going to say, if you're at home, right, and you want to watch this at home, and you're like, well, Lou and Sam, y'all keep on telling me to go to theaters. I don't feel comfortable going to theaters. You know what? Do this at home, and I think you'll get a really good thing. Turn your television as high as you can get it. And just sit down and enjoy it, because I think you can get close to the same experience. If you have a sound system at home, again, make sure you surround yourself with the speakers, because that's the feeling you want to get. Most televisions now are good enough where the sound could still surround you, and you can get that feeling. This just ain't a movie to listen to on low, not even on medium. Turn your TV all the way up and experience what's going to happen. That way you don't have to feel the need to go into theaters. But if you can get into a theater, if you're comfortable going into a theater, go into a theater and watch this. I am now looking for a 4DX theater that's showing this film because I want to see it on 4DX.
Now that would be freaking amazing. So for me, I loved everything that I was seeing. I loved everything I was hearing, what the movie was making me feel. I actually cared about the characters and where the trajectory of the story was going. I still care about the world, and I don't feel jaded that, we had to wait a year after the fact. The movie doesn't even feel dated. This was supposed to come out March 20th, 2020, but it doesn't feel dated. I felt like, man, this is right on time. So for me, I rested at a 9.5 out of 10. I could really just give it a 10, but there's another film. Anyway, we ain't gonna go there. I've just rested this at a 9.5 out of 10.
Wait a minute, is this the same film that I'm thinking of?
Just anyway, 9.5 out of 10. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. And thanks you guys for watching our very first non-spoiler review live. We've never done this before. We might try to do this more often, but things may be shifting in the month of June for Team JVS. So we will be making a different video about that later on. So stay tuned for that. And some great things are coming. And one of us is going to be reviewing Cruella in time for this coming out next, because both Cruella and A Quiet Place 2 are both coming out this Friday. So definitely go and check them out. So yeah, man, that sucks. Cruella's going to get a lot of exposure. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.